welcome all of you in here. I prepared a talk about game jams, and I sort of wanted to get in the social aspect of game jams. I'll get in a moment into what game jams are. But then I found out that I have 15 minutes instead of half an hour as I thought originally, so that went out of the window. And I kind of renamed the talk from the rise of game jams, which was supposed to be the social thing, to what, how, why, who, where, and when. And I will try to quickly answer these questions for those of you who don't know what game jams are, because in my opinion it's an awesome thing. I want to basically spread the word. For those of you who actually know what game jams are, and there's at least one serial jammer in the audience, I think that the conversation wouldn't be much rewarding or informative, but hey. So, I want to tell you what game jams are. The best thing when defining something I learned from other talks is, or at least everybody does it, is to take the first paragraph from Wikipedia, so that's mine. It's actually pretty descriptive. Game jam is a gathering of game developers for the purpose of planning, designing, and creating one or more games within a short span of time, usually ranging between 24 and 48 hours. That's pretty good. I'm not sure how much of an idea it gives you, but basically the point is you get a bunch of people, you put them somewhere, and they make stuff. More descriptive for me is that game jam is a hackathon for games. So I just replaced one unknown word for another one. So let's go into what hackathon is, because that's an older thing and it's quite well established. So this is a picture from a hackathon, and in my opinion, a hackathon is basically a coding party or party for coders. Just get together, get some drinks, start coding on some topic, and you party hard. Usually these things go over the full span of time. So if you have a 24-hour game jam, you just sit down and you work on the thing for 24 hours straight, unless you fall asleep. And there are like a lot of Red Bulls and coffee and all the other stuff around. And this thing came around like 1990s, and it's pretty well known around the world right now. So you have hackathons for all the possible purposes, like hackathon for making an awareness of some topic, or a hackathon for making some product more visible. For example, recently there was transportation hackathon in Berlin, where the guys with Tesla just brought the Tesla cars, and people could like hack programs for the cars. And the reasons are numerous. And at some point, like I guess 10 years later, somebody thought, well, that's a good idea. Let's do it with games. And in the past decade, there was a huge surge of these game jams. So that's why the rise of the game jam. But it's basically 2000-something thing. So that would be what a game jam is. Now, the second thing is, how do you make a game jam? And how do people come into game jam? So usually there's a website of some sort, people register there, they come to the venue that's provided by the organizers, they meet. Usually they've never seen each other before, they somewhat group, which is a pretty awesome thing, because you have to keep in mind that most of the people who are coming there are actually computer scientists, and they can like start talking to each other and they can actually agree on a project. So that's pretty awesome. Like that never happened to me in my past 5 years of studying computer science with like my classmates. So that's from the point of the people who are attending. From the point of view of organizers, they basically just provide a location. Usually they provide food. Sometimes they provide also a topic to work on or some constraints how to work. And basically are trying to like keep the game, keep the flow somewhat, but are not very disruptive in general. So it really is just, we throw a party, you come, let's see what happens. Okay, when it comes to locations, the locations can be numerous and varying. This one is on a train that goes from Chicago to San Francisco, I hope. where people who are coming there each year for GDC conference just go into the train that goes for like 50 hours before it crosses all of America, and they just make games on the way. It's a pretty awesome idea. It happened several times already. So like the options on how you can actually make a game jam are quite, they are quite relaxed. The constraints are quite relaxed. You can use your imagination. Now, why? Why do organizers make game jams? Well, as I pointed out, hackathon is a party, game jam is a party. It kind of gives the mentality of actually just throwing a party, and it's fun. Like to make a game in short time, it's fun, at least for the people who are attending. And it somehow creates a community. People talk to each other, they go for a beer afterwards or something. It has this social melting effect, and it's a pretty good reason for making games. And actually most of the game jam organizers I talked to gave this argument in one way or another. The other quite common reason for somebody to organize a game jam is to promote some product. So for example, Epic was trying to promote the Unreal Engine, so they made a game jam and they said all the games have to be made in Unreal Engine. And that's really great for them to get people to use the software, because basically you like spend half of the jam, if you don't know the engine, you have spend half of the jam just trying to figure out how it works. But after the jam, you have the know-how, so you feel like, well, I could use this for my future projects because now I already have the skill with it. So that's second quite commonplace reason. And Microsoft is also very well known for doing this. I mean, they are also crashing all the other kinds of jams with awards like, okay, if you make the game, you can do whatever, but if you make a game for Windows Phone, and we say that it's the best game for Windows Phone, all of you guys are getting a Windows Phone for it. So it can somehow mix. The latest argument I put here, which is quite new, even in the very novel topic of game jams, is somewhat addressing some issues. The most prominent is probably the group called Games for blah, 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 and you have multiple options. And these things are usually thrown on the internet, and they really put forward a topic of some sort for the purpose of somehow addressing the issue. So it can be addressed in two ways. First, you create an awareness in between the people who actually make the games, so that like helps a bit. But the point is, okay, if you make good games, and sometimes there are good games from the jams, and people on the internet are actually willing to play it. So if you make such a good game or get such a good game from a game jam, and it's addressing some topic, it actually reaches a lot of people because they are just players on the internet, and they play a game that's about like spread of Ebola or something. Sometimes this I feel is a bit misused, because there was like, for example, this candy jam, which basically was somehow trying to create the awareness in between the game developers about this company that's called King, which was behaving very badly. Maybe you know the Candy Crush Saga. They tried to trademark word candy, so, and Saga I think too. So Saga too, but they were also doing the candy thing. Well, the Saga was other problem, whatever. Point was, a jam was thrown on the internet, just trying to promote the issue. Everybody was like tweeting about it. It got some spread, some coverage. Maybe it changed something, maybe it didn't, but it was a good idea. But afterwards, there was very soon a so-called Flappy Jam, which was saying, the organizers were saying, okay, we want to help this Vietnamese, or create awareness about this Vietnamese guy who made this Flappy Bird game, and now he put it out of the market, and people are threatening to kill him if he doesn't put it back, and we like want to show that we are helpful. But I actually feel that most of the people just wanted to make like Flappy Bird clone and tried to make it like it's actually a socially nice thing. So it can cut both ways. Okay. So why do people come? There are different groups of people who are coming. They are all different age groups. Some of them are professional programmers, some of them never programmed, some of them are professional artists, some of them can draw a big butt or something, but nothing else. And it somehow mixes, and it usually gives you some kind of product that is viable, a game that's playable. Basically, it's a good experience for everybody there. Like, even if I'm quite a skilled programmer, I always, when programming games for game jams, I always learn something new. And it's not a problem because you are not trying to make like a long shot project that you want to sell afterwards. So it's not a problem for me to team up with a guy who's basically trying to draw for the second time in his life on computer. And maybe the graphics won't be like extra beautiful, but hey, like, what's the problem? I already pointed out that people mostly come because it's fun to do. It's actually so much fun that a company called Double Fine, when they were developing one of their bigger projects and they were all like really exhausted by having this huge thing, they started doing a small jam just within the company just to lay off the main game and create a small game just to relax. So they relaxed from making a game by making a game. But because it was like this small format, when you start with something, you have an idea, you put it on paper, and in half a day it's a working game. It really gives you the like feeling of freshness, and also it's quite rewarding to actually really make something that's working. People come to socialize, of course. I have some good friends that I know only from jams, and we just like meet on the jams and have beers together, and it really creates this sort of community that otherwise it's not connected anyhow, only via the game jams. Now, point is why I'm trying to push it forward here in Czech Republic or here in Brno is that there is not much of it going on here. Basically, game jams are a thing that's ubiquitously known in between indie developers and almost unbeknown to everybody else. But even the indies who are like in Czech Republic, they are usually doing the jams only when they are online. So this is one of the options where Czech people are attending. It's called Ludum Dare. It goes on every 4 months. It's very prominent, very well known. I know that there were more, this is a map from the last one, but it's only, you can see only people who are making a blog post about it. But I know that at least 10 people from Czech Republic joined. I don't know about more Eastern countries. There's also this thing that's called Global Game Jam. It's going to be in February, which is all over the world. Again, online thing, but the thing is that all around the world, people are like securing locations for people who are nearby to make the jam actually on a physical place, and it's just then all is posted online on this one huge page. And it's going on in Prague every year. It was, I think, twice in Brno. When I was checking like last week, there was no venue in Brno mentioned for this year. So maybe if somebody's feeling like, okay, I would throw a jam, this is a great opportunity. You basically just register there and say, okay, we are having this location. And people who are from nearby and who are looking for some, then they can find it out there. Almost the ultimate, almost the last point is that I said that it's basically 2000-something thing. There's a huge surge, almost exponential increase in number of jams. So now everybody's throwing jams all the time. There's a snapshot of a calendar I took like 2 weeks ago. You can see that if you feel like, okay, right now I want to go and make a jam game, you can just like pick from the list of options. Some of them will be on the internet, so you pretty much could. And this is pretty much all from me. This is actually a map made from the last Ludum Dare with pictures taken as screenshots from every single game. I found it really neat, so wanted to push the point of being it all over the world and very sociable or very unconstrained by the location forward. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would also like to thank some people who were discussing things with me for this talk, and I forgot to put their names on there, but it wouldn't fit with the map. So people who are organizing the Global Game Jam helped me a bit with the topics, and people who are organizing Berlin Minigame Jam helped me a lot. So I would like to thank these two groups. And that's all from me.